I'm curious, as a drummer, because I've played bass on gigs with you many a time. What do you look for with a bass player? What do you, for you, because in my mind, the interplay between bass and drum is fascinating. Whenever I teach bass, the way I articulate it to people is I say, I imagine, bass is my favorite instrument. I just think bass is incredible. But I think of the role of bass in a band setting as giving pitch to the drums. And there's different ways you can do that, right? You can, for me, the way I always kind of break it down for people is it's all kick drum. So you can either play in tandem with that kick drum and really lock in, or you can dance around the kick drum.
Like syncopation or not.
Yeah, exactly. But to me, that's kind of where the role of, because everyone knows if you have a 5-piece, 4-piece rock band and there's no bass but there's drums, it sounds just weird as hell. But if you have a 4 or 5-piece band, you don't have drums, but you have bass, it sounds fucking great. Yeah. So in my mind, like that's the relationship there is so interesting. And I wonder for you as a drummer, what are you looking for when you sit down at a gig with a bass player?
I've said it before. I'm looking to not even realize I have that there's a bass player with me. Like, and I would hope it's the same way with the bass player. Like they're so locked in that it doesn't even feel like they're playing with a drummer.
Yeah.
It's almost like, when you play with a click and like it goes when the click goes away,
you're like,
that's when
golden,
you're locked in.
Golden.
So it's the same thing with, I would say, a bassist, which is like when you're not thinking about the bassist, that's when I think, that's what I look for, because it's when I'm noticing the bassist the most is when like I feel like I'm least in step with the bassist. Like if I'm not thinking about it, then clearly there's something's working.
I'm sure this, like Brian was saying, I'm sure a lot of this is dependent on the style of music as well. But for me, what I found is just a great generality with music. The music that I tend to love is when each piece of the puzzle, each piece of the band, each piece of the puzzle is working towards just the whole of the song. Mm-hmm. So the important thing is the song and the song coming across. And it's like, I don't care that I can't even sonically necessarily parse, okay, what's the guitar doing here versus the bass part, like, whereas everything is just kind of serving the song itself. And don't get me wrong, there's times where I love a good lead part, whether it's on a steel or a guitar or a mandolin or whatever. But to me, it's just getting the whole thing, framing the song right. Mm-hmm. And that's a hard thing to do.
I think it's the same idea. I think it's when nothing's standing out. I mean, it's the song is interesting and the song needs to be
but the song stands out is what I mean. Like,
exactly. Yeah. But if nothing specifically is standing out, except for maybe the vocals, obviously, like the lyrics, the message or whatever.
The message.
But if nothing's been like obnoxious the whole song and everything's just kind of, I mean, and stuff can fit in different ways. Like, it doesn't have to be like, I'm not saying like, oh, if you're a guitarist, don't overplay. Like it might be like maybe somewhere in the song,
you need that. Yeah.
There's a place to play out, but you're not doing it the whole song.
If you like that clip, click on another one. And if you didn't like that clip, fuck you. There's also channels that you can subscribe to. So do that.